I feel unbelievably betrayed by feminism. 38-year-old urinalist posts a video about regretting her selfish, me-focused life after putting off kids. And cue every guy who's ever been in her life screaming, I told you so! What do you think I was trying to explain to you in your 20s? You should have listened back then. From the silver screen to the pulpit, I grew up hearing about how to pull yourself up by your bootstraps mentality personified by John Wayne wasn't healthy for men. But while little boys were being scolded for their toxicity, it seems a different poison is being peddled to little girls. Wow, you're finally learning after it's too late. Yeah, that's the theme, isn't it? They always learn after it's too late. And part of the problem is we got a lot of galaxy brains telling people, it's never too late. No, you're objectively wrong. With something like this, making a decision that'll permanently screw over you the entire rest of your life, yeah, it's possible to notice too late. And that's what's happening to a lot of these women. Like, you can't rewind the clock. Yeah, I don't have a way to download the video to post it here. It might be the property of Fox News, so the full 6-minute clip can be found through the link. But let me highlight a few quotes. This is Melissa Persling, a urinalist who writes for a variety of outlets, but has been especially open about her life over on the Business Insider. Last month, she went viral for this piece. Yep, this is the one we covered. Now, I'm 38 and single. I recently realized I want a child. I'm terrified. I've missed my opportunity. Yup, we covered that one. And Melissa was married to her middle school sweetheart from Idaho when she was in her 20s. She remembers sitting on the counter talking to him about the future. But when she was 20 years old, she didn't want kids. He did, because he loved her. He tried to make the marriage work, but a decade later, they divorced. Melissa then dated a 58-year-old rich guy and wrote about it. Now, nearly a decade after her divorce, she realizes she wants kids and realizes she might not be able to have them. And now we're getting to the new stuff. So yeah, we covered this article. That was basically the Cliff Notes version. But that's not what this one is about. Yeah, this is the aftermath. I wrote a lot of that article truly scared. I really did think like, wow, you missed your opportunity. You're going to be alone. You're not going to have a family. Like, I was really scared when I wrote that. That's exactly what like I felt. That is what you should be feeling in your position. That's perfectly natural. And when I got comments after that article was published, like I said, there was hundreds of guys emailing me, texting me, LinkedIn, messaging me, commenting on the post, saying, you're selfish, you missed out, you know you could have had all that, but you picked your career, calling me horrible things. I mean, it was awful. I sat in bed reading those comments and I thought, oh my gosh, they're right. Yeah, now this, by the way, guys, please don't do this. When these women finally wake up and realize they've completely destroyed their lives and there's no going back and it's too late, please don't do this. I mean, laugh at them in your own spaces, fine, but don't message them. Don't go to where they are. Don't insult them where they are. You don't need to do that, okay? If you do that, you're just being more pathetic than they are. Look, these women have already lost everything. Do you really need to kick them while they're down? Just sit back and enjoy the show, but don't get involved with it. Like, why would you need to do that? Like, this is someone who is already self-destructing. You don't need to help, okay? And Melissa said she heard you've been selfish over and over again. She didn't appreciate the hate, but she realized there was truth in what they were saying. I guess we'll give her credit for that. Now, she had been living a selfish, me-focused life. For me, it's definitely started to feel hollow and meaningless. And, it's taken me until this point in my life to realize that it's not the life that's going to bring you happiness. Yeah. Right as you get to the point where it's too late, you realize, oh, shoot, I should have chosen the other one. Oh, too late now. Ask any parent if they would trade their kids for a bigger house or a bigger career. Perhaps 1 in 10,000 would make the trade. Well, it depends. Some kids are total pieces of shit. Maybe their parents would gladly trade them. It's such a me-focused culture right now. It really is. And I just think there's lots of us are missing out, The quote-unquote traditional crowd, conservative politicians, church leaders, stay-at-home moms, said this for decades. No one listened. I don't want to wake up at 60 by myself and go, well, I had a lot of fun, but you're gonna. And for the record, some people could do this. Some people out there could, they could do this and they could be happy. There are men in particular that don't need a family. They'll be perfectly happy with this. They can make it to 60 and be single and then wake up in the morning and go, another peaceful day without anyone nagging me with their fucking problems and bullshit. But not everyone can. Some people need they need other people in their life to give them meaning. Legacy isn't everything, but it's nearly everything as far as this life is concerned. You don't need to be married or have kids to find fulfillment, but most of the women's freed from motherhood aren't open to orphanage or aren't opening orphanages in Calcutta. Yeah, another thing too, if you don't leave behind a genetic legacy, you could leave behind an intellectual one. Like Nikola Tesla and Isaac Newton and them, like the legacies they left behind are far more valuable than a crotch fruit. Because I'm sure you guys have noticed this too. The children of geniuses are never geniuses. Well, I'm going to say never. They're most likely not going to be geniuses, because I know someone's going to point out like one example. So hell, man, focus on intellectual legacy. I feel unbelievably betrayed by feminism. I don't want to put it on the movement because I believe you make your own choices, and everything I've done coming to this point in my life has been my choice, and that's on me. Now, this is funny. So part of it's funny because she's too afraid to say this is feminism's fault. So it's kind of a cop-out. But the other part of this is she is low-key admitting, no, it's not the scammer's fault. It's my fault I got scammed. I was an idiot and fell for an obvious scam. So, but when I was a little girl, I was like, and to be fair, I think it partly comes from a divorced family and seeing my mom kind of handled a lot. And that's a whole different can of worms, the root of much of this problem, but let's move on. Yeah, the destruction of the nuclear family, that is actually the root of a lot of these problems. I do agree. But also it was constantly said that this idea that women can be everything, we don't need really need men. Yeah, until you do, until you're 60, then you do, right? Yeah, you don't need, no. My favorite thing about these types of women, they're strong and independent and don't need no man as long as they're living in a society built and kept safe by men, as long as they're being subsidized by daddy government. But as soon as times get just a little bit tough, all of a sudden they're turning on the waterworks and begging men to protect them. Always works out that way. The women's can have a great career and have kids that they like and change the tires and do this. I grew up thinking men are great, but I grew up thinking all these things, the same things. I do feel in many ways betrayed by that line of thinking. And my question to you would be this: how many men in your life tried to warn you about this and you brushed them off as misogynists who didn't know what they were talking about? I'd like to know. I'm not making fun of Melissa. I have 4 daughters. I know statistically that at least one will get sucked in by the poison apple our culture is offering these days. But when will modern women's wake up to the lie? Look, this article is answering your question. They'll wake up to the lie after it's too late. Once they realize, oh, this isn't what I want. I want this other thing. But now it's too late to have it. That's when they will wake up. So a lot of older women's in my life, I kind of want to go back to what some of those teachers and coaches and say, what the heck did you mean by that? Because women's can't do it all. We can't. It's such a lie. And now, just a reminder, it's not a lie that all of them fall for. This is another form of natural selection. Agreed. As a guy, I was well versed in all this unique toxicity of men by the time I was 10. It started young when my kindergarten teacher wanted to put me on Ritalin because I wouldn't sit still like a good little girl. Unfortunately, fortunately, I had a dad who laughed at the idea. But by the time I was in my teens, I was being taught how men, especially white men, were the source of all the world's problems. I had the quote unquote role models of Homer Simpson and Peter Griffin to show me how stupid and laughable men are, especially fathers. Yeah, but good thing you had a real father, though. That made the difference in your life, didn't it? A father in the home. So I made it through because I had faithful parents who taught me otherwise, and because I had a template of masculinity in the Bible. I mean, I will give you credit there. There is actually some good examples of that in said Bible, yeah. And many men didn't. Unfortunately, our culture is so slay queen mode, this rot of endless empowerment without wisdom, and unearned as well. Don't forget that. That's considered taboo to suggest maybe women have been sold a lie too. No, look, men, this isn't your problem anymore. You've been told to stay out of it, so stay out of it. Let these old women convince the younger women, yeah, we may have made a mistake. And Melissa says she thanks God she realized that marriage and children are important before she turned 40 because she believes she has enough time. I disagree. But geriatric pregnancy, what a term, is considered to have a greater difficulty and risk due to old age. Is any pregnancy over the age of 35. Oh, and you're already like 3 years over that. From the Cleveland Clinic, advanced maternal age. Advanced maternal age describes a pregnancy where the birthing person, where the mother is older than 35. Women's over 35 are more at risk of complications like miscarriage, congenital disorders, and high blood pressure. Screening tests can help detect certain congenital disorders. Yeah, see, this is the kind of stuff you need to be fighting against, man. When even trusted scientific institutions are all in on biology as a social construct, you know this society isn't worth it. Advanced maternal age. Yeah, life is short, and for women's, the windows to have kids is even shorter. Yeah, men can have kids until the day they die. Now, it's not recommended, partly because like, as the men get older, it also increases risks of like defects in the kid, but also because you'd be robbing that kid of a father. Like, imagine having a kid at 90 and then you die at 92. Like that's just wrong. But point is, it's physically possible for men to have kids at that age. Not for women, though. And my wife gave birth to our first child at 23. She recently gave birth to our fourth child at 32. There was a world of difference in the difficulty of the last pregnancy compared to the first. We ended up in the ER afterwards because it was that much harder on her body. I pray for the tens of millions of women like Melissa, my fellow millennials who aren't the up and coming generation anymore, but are just now starting to realize what life is actually about. About 20 years too late. You tell them. Yeah, this is something they should have realized at not at 38, but at 18. But this whole thing, isn't this exactly what I say would happen? This is the repeating cycle. It goes on forever. So you got women like this woman gets to old age, realizes she made some mistakes. She tries to warn younger women to not make the same mistakes. The younger women go, whatever, grandma. Unlike you, I'm like God's gift to everything. I'm not going to end up a failure like you. I'm awesome. And then 20 years later, that girl realizes she made a mistake. She tries to warn the younger girls. Whatever, grandma. I'm not going to be a failure like you. The cycle just repeats forever. Oddly enough, you know what would be a very effective way to break out of this cycle? Fathers in the home.